This is a recording of an old video made back in 2016. At that point, our limits in Alma Analytics were 65,000 rows in Excel. Since that point, ExLibris has opened up the limits to 500,000 rows, but those are only for exports into text files, either .csv or tab delimited files. This same process I'm demonstrating here can be used for those files using the limits of 500,000 instead of 50,000 as you see here. Another comment I want to make is that the 65,000 row limit is not from Excel. It's actually from Oracle Business Intelligence, which is what's behind Alma Analytics. And it's not strictly a 65,000 row. It also is a limit based on how many columns there are. So if you're exporting to Excel, the number of rows may be lower if you have a lot of columns in it. That said, this technique will work. You may just have to adjust the number down accordingly if you want to export to Excel. With that, I give you this technique. Bypassing ExLibris' line limit using the function RCount. Here I have a very simple inventory for Wilson E Station with the title, call number, barcodes. If I go to results and I see what I expect, I export it into Excel, open it up, I see what I want with the header, the title. Problem comes down when I scroll down to the end and I see this red X, and in the next square over, view display error, we've exceeded the number of imports. That's because ExLibris has a limit of 65,000. Functionally, as you can see here, it actually winds up being more like 64,800. For our purposes, that's not that important. How can we get around that? We have what we want in the query. We might break it up by call number, we might break it up by barcode, but really this is what we want. Is there an easier way to do that? The answer is yes. Here's how. We'll go into criteria and add a new filter. In this case, we're just going to choose more columns. Choose any column here. It doesn't matter which one you choose because we're going to overwrite it. I'm going to click OK and click on this little F button. This allows you to edit what the column is. Delete whatever is there and type in the function R, the letter R as in Robert, count, and the number 1. And click OK. RCount is simply a count of rows in the report. Since we know that it needs to be less than 65,000, we could say is less than or equal to 65,000. For purposes that I'll show later, I'm actually going to change this to 50,000. It may be more efficient to have a higher number, but for my purposes, this is easier math, and you'll see why later. We click OK and run this report now. We get what looks to be the same. We export it to Excel. Open it up. And it looks like the same report. But here's the thing. If we go down to the bottom again, we don't run into the red X. Instead, we run to the bottom of the file. It's line 50,002, which meets our 50,000 low. But why is it 2? Well, that's because we have a row for the title and we have a row for the headers. So now we can go back to our original report and change this criteria. Instead of less than 50,000, we can say between. We don't want to have 50,000. We change that to 50,001. Otherwise, whatever was in line 50,000, we get a duplicate on this. And we're going to go up to the next one. And this is where I chose 50,000 because I can just double it easily to 100,000. Click OK. Run. Export this to Excel. Open. And here we have what is essentially part 2 of this report. Scroll down to the bottom and you'll see that again we're at 50,002. We can just take this data here, excluding the headers, copy and paste it into the bottom of our report here. So now we have 100,000. How do we know that we're done? Well, let's go back to our criteria, and this time change it from 50,000 to 100,001 to 150,000. Click OK. Go to Results, export into Excel. Open it up. And when we do, and we scroll down to the bottom, now we see that it's not 50,000, but it's only 12,000. So whatever is beyond that, we've reached our limit, essentially. We can copy and paste this into our master report, and we have a full listing of inventory.